May the road rise up to meet you, and the wind be on your back. May the sun shine warm upon you, and the rain fall gently down.
Hello and welcome back. Today we're at week 15 of the series. That's going to cover days 92 to 97. Or if you've got the edition of the Road Rising that follows the calendar, then you'd be looking at April 1st to April 7th. So this week we see that the pilgrim known as Friend has finally come to the end of the desert and is following a river that he hopes will bring him back to the trail that he left a couple of weeks ago. The canyon walls come closer together, the river narrower but faster and more forceful, and then coming around the bend, Friend is dismayed to find himself confronted by a huge waterfall. The only way forward, it seems, is to climb. Success comes when he discovers a fissure in the rock that provides a relatively easy way up and over the top. As he climbs, Friend contemplates this geological phenomenon. Let me read his observations, and then I want to ask you a question about it. Day 96, April 5th entry. Here's what we read. Having made the traverse through the waterfall, I now began seeking my way to the right, toward ledges that I couldn't see now but had memorized before starting the climb. I was relieved to find that most of them were much wider than they had appeared from below. Smiling to myself, I thought, that's the way a lot of life's challenges are. Formidable when seen from a distance, but doable up close and personal. Well, I was about as familiar with this waterfall as I cared to be. Was grateful to be moving away from it into the dry fissure I'd observed this morning. The rock along the sides of the fissure bore evidence of a turbulent past. Rough places had been worn smooth by the rushing water, and pieces of rock, caught in whirlpools, had carved out huge bowls in the solid granite before being worn away themselves. The fissure that I was in had been formed when the river had located a tiny crack and took advantage of it. Pushing relentlessly through, the tiny crack was now a canyon in the making. Given enough time and some more water, the outside portion of the canyon would eventually break away, joining the boulders far below. But at this moment, that didn't seem very likely. The river, always seeking the lowest route, had moved over to another section of rock. The result was a waterfall which now was not quite as high as it used to be, a fact for which I was very grateful. I simply should have waited at the bottom, I joked to myself. Eventually, this big monster would be nothing but a babbling brook. That's the way a lot of life's issues go, don't they? Problems meet resistance, and in the process, both the resistance and the problem are worn away. Those big boulders down below the falls are evidence of the water's force pushing against them. But a result that's not so evident is the fact that now the water doesn't have as far to fall. Simple physics will tell you that the lower the drop, the less the force. So in a way, those boulders are not defeated rocks, but rather victorious warriors, having brought the mighty waterfall one step closer to a babbling brook. Resistance is futile, the bad guy says, but that's not true. Resistance is everything. And with every ounce of strength I possess, I intend to keep on resisting until the river gives up. Now, here's my question. In this experience, Friend sees himself as the boulder, standing against the river, resisting its unrelenting force with every ounce of strength he possesses. And that's good. The Apostle James tells us in chapter 4, verse 7, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. But here's another perspective that I hope will encourage you today. Instead of the boulder, have you ever thought of yourself as the river? Rather than standing firm in the face of life's onslaughts, have you ever gone on the offensive, dishing it out as good as you take it? You're probably familiar with Jesus' words to Peter in Matthew 16:18, when he declares, and I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Great verse. But honestly, I always had trouble picturing this image in my mind. All I could see was the church up there on the rock, and down below, here came Satan and his minions to attack, and they're carrying their gate, and planning, I guess, to use it for a battering ram. But that's not what Jesus is telling Peter, is it? Christ's church is going to be built on the rock that Peter started with, and it's going to be a great place like Rendezvous in this book, a place where we can catch our breath, enjoy some downtime, learn some skills, join in some worship. But then there will come a time when we put the armor back on. We take up our sword and we step out to engage the enemy out there on the battlefield. And by God's grace, the battle is going to push the devil all the way back to his fortress. He's going to run inside and close the gates and think to himself, what have I started here? And Jesus would say to him, you haven't seen the half of it. Thanks to my son, Jesus Christ, you're defeated already. You're a dead man walking. Go ahead, close your gates, but listen, my people are on the move, and the gates of hell will not prevail. Can I get an amen? Carry this assurance with you today, will you? The power of God is both defense and offense. God's strength will allow you to withstand anything Satan can throw at you. I'm not making this up. Look at 1 Corinthians 10:13 for chapter and verse. And not only that, God's strength will allow you at His command to pick up your sword and turn the tide of battle. Don't let Satan mess with you or your loved ones. Have I preached enough? See you next time. Y'all come back now here. Like I said, I've never been here before, and so I've never needed what I need now. But listen to this. Now that I need it, I've got it.